Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it's time for the August challenge. Make something in the 1980s theme. So I'm using Jaded Blossom's bread tag die, their Pump Up the Jam stamp set, their Kawaii 80s stamp set, a couple more that I'll show later too. Brutus Monroe's Neon Glow 6-inch pad, and Doodlebug's Candy Stripe and Sprinkles. So first I have a piece of paper. I cut that out using the bread tag dies, and that's Simon Says Stamp Audrey Blue cardstock. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment on there. There we go. It says, "You're gnarly," because we're going with an 80s theme, right? So I'm just going to get that kind of lined up. Whoops. As well as I can. And using like my Misty, Ends of Versafine Claire Nocturne ink, and we will stamp that sentiment. I'm also going to stamp something on this Candy Stripe and Sprinkles while I'm at it. This is the cassette tape. And I'm going to stamp both of those in Versafine Claire Nocturne ink. So just quickly, oops. Of course, I've got my magnets all messed up. There we go. So I'm going to stamp You're Gnarly. And then I will stamp the cassette in a moment here as well. So there we are. My favorite tool in my craft room is my Misty. I use it all the time. So I get nice clean images. And just making sure it's nice and stamped. There we go. Now next I'm going to line up that cassette tape, and I'm going to stamp it on this piece of paper because I'll be doing some paper piecing and putting my pink cassette on this. So I'm going to first stamp it in Versafine Claire Nocturne ink, kind of at an angle. And now I'm going to use, this is some Post-it tape, and I'm going to use a mask. And I'm going to stamp it again kind of behind it, right? So I'm just using my little acetate grid from Simon Says Stamp, but I just want to protect my surface because there's some ink on that still. I'm going to stamp in my Versafine Claire Nocturne ink again, and that'll overlap that Post-it. And there we go. So now on the inside, I'm going to stamp a sentiment. This is a birthday sentiment. And I'm using my Misty Corners. Just lining it up. And I'll be stamping in that same Versafine Claire Nocturne ink. Now this is an A2 size card made out of paper trank white cardstock. 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches. So it says, if birthdays were kind, they would rewind. Now I'm going to add on some more paper. So this is a 1 1/4 inch strip of Audrey Blue. And then I'm going to add a 1-inch strip. Actually, you know what? I think that's 1 1/8 inch of Audrey Blue. And then I'm adding a 1-inch strip of that Brutus Monroe Neon Glow. And I will trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. There we are. Now I'm using the glasses dies. I didn't think to show them in the beginning. And I cut the glasses out of that same Audrey Blue. And I'm using Barely Art glue. And I'm going to add a few pairs of these glasses to the inside of my card. So I cut them out of American Crafts Black, and then Audrey Blue, and then this Royal Purple. That is also from Simon Says Stamp. There we are. And I'm just sort of, 3 pairs of sunglasses, these 80s looking glasses, right? Now on the outside, I have some of that paper. The pattern paper is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and then the pink is cut 1/8 of an inch larger than that. That's dull pink cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. You'll see that I cut the bread tag out of the center, because you don't have to waste it. And then I'm using my ATG tape, and I'll be adding that to my card front. Trying to line it up as well as I can. This paper I think is perfect for the 80s. Kind of has that modular look, right? Oops, I hit my camera. Sorry, guys. Now I'm going to add a 2-inch strip to some royal purple cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. And then I'll be adding that to my card front as well with some ATG tape. There, just trying to line it up. I'm using my Simon Says Stamp kind of grid to kind of, make sure things are straight. I will trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors there. There we go. So it's just got some very, the paper is modular, right? Now I peeled off my mask and you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to add on that little tag to my bread tag. You'll see that I cut a pair of glasses out of my bread tag, the pink one. No one will see it but you and me. So I'm just going to lay those 2 pieces down. There, and then I'm going to have that on my card front. Now I'm going to do some paper piecing. I'm going to trim this out on the line. There we are. And then I'm going to take a Memento tuxedo black marker and run it around the edge before I glue it down and line it up, in the stamped image itself. That way, if I don't cut, if it's not cut perfectly out, you won't be able to tell. It's a lot more forgiving that way. So I'm just trying to trim this off. I'm blind now, so this is a lot more difficult than it used to be, I have to say. So there we go. And that's what it looks like. And I am going to add that to my card front with some Barely Art glue. But I realized, darn it, I've got to run that marker around the edge first. I almost forgot, right? So I'm just running that around, coloring the edge so it kind of looks like it was cut perfectly. And there, now I'll add that Barely Art glue to the back, and then I'll stick that cassette tape down. And there we go. And I will weight it down with an acrylic block. So I did cut some of these little fun sunglasses out. Again, I cut 2 of them out of black American Crafts cardstock, and then one is out of that dull pink. I'll be using these on my little cassette. I just think it's fun and kind of makes it look gnarly, right? Which is lots of fun. So I'm just layering those 3 pairs of sunglasses up. Just makes them a little bit thicker, kind of like chipboard, and I will weight it down. So I'm pulling out shape sprinkles. These are called ICU, and I'm going to add some black dots like eyeballs to these glasses, even though they would be behind the glasses, but I kind of wanted them to pop, so I'm putting them on the front. There we are. And now that I have those, I will go ahead and glue them down on my cassette tape here. And like I said, using my Barely Art glue again. And we will have like a little animated cassette tape, which is lots of fun. So I'm just going to pop that in place. And there we have it. So it's kind of cute, right? Just trying to get off any glue that kind of is oozing out. You don't want that. So I am using Jaded Blossom's Tree Swing die. I didn't show that at the beginning. And I'm using just the little musical notes. I cut them out of that same royal purple cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to add 3 of them to this little tag front with some Barely Art glue. I'm just pulling the colors from what I'm working with, right? And I just think this is fun. So I'm adding in my little tag there. And now I'm going to glue this tag down. But I'm going to glue it to a second layer. So I cut out some more Paper Trank white cardstock. And I just wanted it to be a little bit thicker, right? So I do weight it down. And now I am going to add this leftover little note to the inside of my card. Why not, right? There we are. And now I'm just going to make sure this is nice and flat. And now I'm going to pop up this little tag with some black Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I'll add some to the top and the bottom, where it kind of straddles that you know, that 2-inch strip of paper that I have. And I'm just going to add some, like I said, to the bottom. I'm going to trim off the edge of some of these little dimensionals, right? You might as well use it all. I'm just going to trim that along. And then I will have this tag to put down. I'm going to add some ATG tape to the center just to make sure it's all stuck down. Now this is a fun little challenge over at the Jaded Blossom blog. You just need to make a 1980s themed card. Use, you know, something from Jaded Blossom, and we would love to see what you create. So make sure you link it up. There we go. So now I'm taking a Spectrum Noir Clear Sparkle pen, and I'm just going to kind of color in those glasses, adding some shimmer. And there we go. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect, right? I always say that, but I'm a bit crazy, so there. So I'm just trying to get a good coating of it on there. And then I'm going to apply some glossy accents over the glasses, just to add some shine. And it also traps that shimmer in there and makes it really sparkly. So there it is. Got my glossy accents in a little squeeze bottle with a needle tip. And I'm just going to kind of fill in these glasses with the glossy accents. Remember, you're going to have to let these dry for a bit, but it does make it kind of look like, you know, a piece of ephemera, right, with some shine. I just think it looks super cute like this. There we are. Now, when it first comes out, it's kind of milky, but then it will dry clear with the sparkle underneath it. So there we are. And I'm just using a bamboo skewer to kind of clean up my glossy accents. There. You know, sometimes you can get a little messy with these. And once they're dry, trust me, you can't really do anything with them. They're you know, they're there. That's it. I'm just trying to clean up any bubbles and any blops, and then I will reapply. And there we go. So we've got some pretty shiny glasses. And I just think it makes it look a little bit cooler. So now I'm pulling out some shape sprinkles from Doodlebug. These are called Christmas Wishes. And then I'm going to be using Midnight Magic as well, just so I have, you know, pink and purple little stars. Just think it adds a little something, right? So I'm adding 5. I am going to add 2 purple as well to this card design, because why not? I'm going to line them up along that little strip that I have. There we go. And there is my 80s themed card. Isn't that fun? So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team. Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on these products, and make sure and come and join the challenge over at the Jaded Blossom blog. Bye, everybody.